old. I don't know where that got thrown in.
Yeah, he's correct.
We're out of here.
You used to be young, not anymore.
That's right, Airheads. It's true. Your eyes do not deceive you. Dave and Gareth, or Gary, as it were.
Nope.
I know you prefer that. I know you love Gary.
No. That's like not a good
your
intro.
preference, right?
No, it isn't. No,
I thought that.
No.
was the
I've
thing.
been like so clear so many times that Gareth is the preferred one.
I would never. Yeah, that's unprofessional. I wouldn't say that.
Okay,
you did start it, so you're the worst part of all of it. But no, to be clear, no, that's not preferred.
Okay, gotcha. So, Dave, Gareth of the world famous.
I don't know why you kind of air quoted my.
I didn't make that. It was meant to be like a
toss?
There he is.
Okay,
there he is.
all right, okay. It seemed half floaty. Okay.
Of the world famous The Dollop podcast, you're here on Puttin on Airs, and we are thrilled. Also, if you're part of the extended SKU universe, you may be a little confused because this is where we do Well Read, but this is also where they do the Dollop, and
Correct.
I'm here, and
it's
so
a true
we're
crossover.
all making it work. Cory's that's still there in North Georgia in the virtual Airstream studios. How you doing, Cho?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm happy to be here with you all. I hate being the Power Rangers big head guy in the room when everybody's in the room together feeling all chemistry-fied.
You should be used to it by now. Was
Yeah.
that Zordon?
I am, but I still hate it.
Is that his name?
I think so.
Zordon?
Yeah. What a pull.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dude, I was a
Zordon.
big
I was gonna
Power
say
Rangers guy
Zoloft.
when I was a kid.
Zoloft would be a great one.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to care about taking over anything anymore. Zoloft.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He just kind of
guy.
floats in his
Either
chamber.
way. Yeah.
All right, so on this show, two hillbilly dipshits, namely me and Cory, I don't know who else you would have thought it would be. We talk about fancy shit, fancy people stuff, and oftentimes try to sort of like draw a Venn diagram or the overlap between like fancy and trash, you know, as much as we can. So I thought we'd start there if possible, because Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, you're from Marin, right? Marin County, right?
Yeah.
Right, but you did not grow up in a privileged situation,
no,
right? So you're right there already. You're like in the wheelhouse of what this show is, just by virtue of, because Marin is one of the most affluent areas of this whole country, but you were not part of that lifestyle, and you're from there.
I was the kid who rode his 10 speed that only 8 gears worked, and servant. But I was the guy who rode his 10 speed, and kids I went to school with would drive by in their Porsches.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it? Were you like a mascot at home, like Linus or whatever from Charlie Brown? Yeah, the dirt kid, the dirt bag kid.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
that pretty much describes it very well.
Yeah, okay.
Like, we had a house, and I had a friend stay over once, and I was like, oh, I don't want him to stay over. And he like kind of pushed for it, and then in the morning he's like, "Why can I see my breath?" I'm like, "Cause we can't afford heat."
Yeah,
it was like stuff like that.
I've always there's so many places. I mean, hell, sometimes in Burbank I look around and I'm like, how do regular people live here because of you know how expensive it is to exist in so many places? So like, you know, a place like that, like, I mean, were your people like from there and it became that around them? Or
it wasn't that wealthy until like the late 70s, early 80s. So everyone who was like grandfathered in was fine.
Right.
But then after that, everyone was screwed and they just moved. Like, I don't know. I know like one person who still lives there from my high school, lives in Marin, and he's like a VP at Wells Fargo. So
he remained poor.
He's still poor, yeah.
Right. And Gareth, you are like sort of British, and that's fancy.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's pretty.
For you, yeah.
But
your
people think like England, like, or at least they used to think like England was like everyone was fancy.
Yes.
And then when you like see my family, you're like, oh no.
Right.
Not at all.
I would like to just say I never thought everybody was fancy from England.
I think most people do, because they like, well, at least I guess when you were raised by cartoons, you're like, oh yeah, they're either butlers or they're princes. And then like, and so people, I think the accent throws it off a lot, but I've also heard the accent before say like, do you want to smoke crack?
No, yeah, right.
Like I've heard that, and I was like, whoa, what?
I had a bit about that because, you know, we talk dumb, our accents are dumb, and I was talking about like the English accent and how everybody thinks it's automatically smart because we just all picture like Professor Oxford in a fucking tweed vest and a pipe or whatever when we think of that accent in this country. But like, you could just as easily picture like a shirtless hooligan in the middle of the street, hammered drunk, just like, oh, pass your fucking head in,
The hooligan helps.
Right,
the hooligan class helps.
Yeah.
But no, they're definitely, like, I was definitely always astounded by like how trashy where my family's from, honestly, is like.
What part of where are they from over there?
They're from a small town called Stowbridge, and like I love it. I'm like, oh, it's the best. But then when other people in England are, ooh, that's bad, mate. That's bad. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's great. And they're like, oh gosh, that's tough, isn't it? Yeah. I'm like, no, it's lovely. But yeah, totally.
I feel the exact same way being from Marjorie Taylor Greene's district because they like people. As soon as they hear that, they're like, how the fuck do you live there? I was like, near the people I love. What do you mean?
Yeah, you have a bubble. Yeah, I forgot that you're from her district.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, buddy.
So
no,
good.
his hometown is wild by like my standards, and we were talking about my hometown before we started. You guys heard what I said about my hometown. Yeah, right.
Kittenbridge.
Yeah, right. Yes, exactly.
That's the town over from where Gareth was from.
Yeah, Kittenbridge. Kittenbridge.
Fancy a bit of crack before you toss your kittens. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's by virtue of just being very, very like Confederate-y still.
Yeah.
Because it's like a Civil War town.
Yeah, right.
Oh, great.
Bloodiest 2-day battle of the Civil War, right, Cory? Famously, yeah.
That's correct, my friend.
How many? How many died?
Most of them.
Oh.
He's from there. So they have like reenactments and stuff there every year, and it's still very
cool.
like it's very like it's like a Civil War town because that's like the noteworthy thing about it. Yeah, that's right.
It's all about selling merch,
and that has an effect on a place.
Yeah,
it's like when you're a comedian.
Yeah, and everyone who got a traffic ticket that year has to fight for the union. That's how we do that.
That's smart.
No one else would do it otherwise. Yeah.
Well, it's like when you're a comedian and like you overbought on your shirts. And so you have to keep doing a bit you no longer want to do, but you're like, I gotta move as many snow globes as possible. Right. So yeah, we're a Civil War town. That's what we are.
Have you ever done it? Have you ever done any uncle ever take you out?
Have I participated in the reenactment?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. I have been to them, or I've been to the Pancake Breakfast that they have every year to kick off the Civil War reenactment. As you know, is
probably why they
to the
died
time.
a lot that day. If they're starting their day off with pancakes, yeah, you're just it's not the go get a meal you want.
No. Need some like egg white.
I have a bit about that, which is me showing up at the Pancake Breakfast, going, "Hey guys, do you ever think maybe this is why we lost the fucking war? Have you ever tried to eat pancakes and do anything?"
Yes.
All right, one more nap and then we move up the hill.
Yeah. But I gotta say, a pancake breakfast is always a go-to. If someone says there's a pancake breakfast, I always go.
Even if it's like
it moves
surrounded by modern day Confederates or whatever.
I'll eat pancakes.
Sure.
Syrup.
Well, a lot of like Cory, we've also talked a lot about how like a lot of times racists make the best like sweets if from the South. Like you think about like Mama's and stuff, like they got.
Like the best cinnamon buns.
Cornbread.
Something about ignorant hate and grease when you put them in a pan together is just mwah.
They say making it with love, but that's overrated. When they mix in the hate, that's the secret.
That's
a lot of Southern
that's the emeralds. That's to kick it up a notch. Ow! Wow! Now that is good.
Yeah.
Better than a Mexican. All right, Mima. All right, now let's just give her the light. That's enough.
That is exactly how it goes. What's brown deer like? You were born in a place called Brown Deer.
Yeah,
in the Midwest. Because I also think the Midwest is like
it's
different from the South, but there's a lot of overlap with them too. That people don't realize.
A lot of overlap.
Country shit,
honestly,
rural shit.
Oh, totally. There's same. I mean, I guess in the South there's maybe a little bit more of it, but you still meet people where you're like, so you live in a junkyard? And
right.
People are like, that's right. Yeah. You know, you're like, okay, that seems like weird. But Brown Deer was like, you know, a suburb in Milwaukee. There were nice suburbs around it, but it was where it was where you'd be like, there's a couple cars on the lawn, and that's okay.
Yeah. Right.
You know, a couple fixer-uppers.
Right.
Our family it was a real weird, like, talking about that Venn diagram, it was like, so I was raised in the bubble of two English people who were English and, you know, very, like, tried to keep their Englishness. And then I would be going to school in Wisconsin, and like totally, I started growing a mullet, and my mother, and I started like shaving Z's in the side of my head, and my mother was like losing me, and my little British accent became like more of a like, hey, chill out, you know. And she was like, dude, you tell me to chill. I'd be like, relax, lady. Right. And she was just like, ah. and so they started to kind of lose me in that. But Brown Deer itself was it was like, like I remember the first place I used to buy cigarettes was the Brown Deer Bowling Alley because you could just do it with quarters, and like that was like a scene, and just you'd see some cats there where you'd be like, oh, well, you know, they'd be like, Dr. Reggie, he knows what he's doing, you know, and just guys are just pounding MGDs in the bottle all day, and
go Packers.
Yeah, oh my God, the Packers stuff actually. Yeah. I don't think helped anything because it was just everybody was just like, oh yeah, it didn't help. No, it didn't help class up the joint. No.
I can't believe that. Didn't take it up a notch?
Yeah, no. So it was definitely like there are nice places in Wisconsin, and it wasn't like too rough, but it was definitely like the more you got down my street, the more you were like, oh, okay, what's going on over here? It seems a little sketchy.
You got any other funny named places in Wisconsin that you're aware of? Like, because like Brown Deer makes me think of. There's a place in Tennessee called Buck Snort, which has always been one of my favorite.
One.
That's awesome.
Buck Snort, Tennessee. It's like my go. If I'm making like a joke about some random redneck town, I say Buck Snort, but which is a real place though. And
yeah, there's a. You know, it's one of those places too where it's like they've kept so many of like the Indian names.
Yeah. Oh right. Yeah.
Where you're almost like the older you get, the more you're like, wait, who are the Menominee Falls? Why is it a bunch of car dealerships? They're like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We got a bright history. We're trying, you know, Trail of Tears sale. And you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, no. So it's like a lot of that. Brown Deer, Oak Creek.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like ones like that. But Brown Deer was special. I do actually remember like someone one time trying to tell me like how the town got its name, like in an interesting way.
It was like,
and it was just like
there was a brown deer.
There's a lot of brown deer.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Here's the twist. There's tons of them, and you're like, okay, and they're like, that's pretty much it. You're like, oh, okay.
What should we name it?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. There was. You ever been to Short Pump, Virginia?
No.
They got a funny bone there.
Then I definitely have been. I didn't know
it's the Richmond funny bone.
Yeah,
It's actually in Short Pump, right? Well, you know the funny bones are all like that.
The Improv's too. Improv's like the Milwaukee Improv.
The best clubs.
Yeah, right.
Funny bone.
So anyway, when I was there, I got curious.
Like, called that
why did they?
There.
I was like, why do they call it Short Pump? And so I looked it up, and it was a similar thing. Like you look it up, expecting some kind of like I don't know, interesting minutia about Atlanta and this and whatnot. But it's just like. In that area, there was a building, and by this building, there was a pump, and the pump, it was short, and so they called it Short Pump, Virginia.
Was a better time.
And I know, right? That's just what they do. He's pointing at stuff and like, this is where we are.
This is how every
dirt hole.
So every surf location is named.
Yeah.
Every single surf location is like. Big rocks.
Yeah.
There's one called Shit Pipe because there's a pipe that the shit comes out of it.
Jesus
they're just all named after the thing that's right there. The two trees.
Senator from Shit Pipe yields his time back. Yeah. No, there was definitely a lot of. There's a delay.
Took him a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was a lot of that, and I think you're right. Like I think Like I remember I dated a girl from Texas, and I remember meeting a guy once who like lived in like a toiletless shanty, and he was like cooking chicken thighs in a coffee can of embers.
Yes.
And I was like, that I haven't seen. But everything else, like the accents are really the difference. You get like, I know you're not supposed to, the trashy white people are all over. You go to like any like Summerfest or like any of these or State Fair in Wisconsin, and you're like, whoa, that is bold.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like...
Ma'am, your labia.
Like
She's like, let's get another chicken thigh.
You see videos of like Russia and people like, look at these crazy people. And you're like, have you driven around America?
Oh, yeah. No, dude. No, like... You mentioned the dude in the toiletless shanty or whatever. I had a neighbor. I grew up in a house like basically in the town that I'm from, but the town I'm from is so small that we had a next door neighbor who lived in a shack with a dirt floor, right? And he used to like come borrow water. He'd come fill up like this old dirty ass milk gallon jug with water from our pipe, and him and my dad became friends that way. So like when my dad would be gone, he'd watch the house, and by watch the house, he would like threaten someone at gunpoint if they tried to like
it's a pizza,
leave a pamphlet or something on our on our front porch. He'd just turn around and Charles just stand there holding a fucking
Charles is too classy a name for that guy.
Chuck. We mostly called him Chuck. Yeah, Charles. Yeah, and he'd like bring little, like sometimes my dad would open the door and there'd be like one, Winston cigarette or something, just like sitting outside, or like a can of potted meat or something.
He was just like an offering.
An offering. He was like a white trash fairy.
Right
or something
back at
like
you.
that. Like the right. Like
what you left for Southern Santa.
the trailer fae or something.
Right. One Winston in a soft pack.
Yeah, right.
He's a good guy. Guy. But to him, he's like $1,000.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
This
is how much you mean to me.
You mean a lot.
Exactly.
One Kent.
Yeah. So, Dave, what did you like? Where are you at on rich people over the course of your life?
Dave's a huge monarchist. That's why I wanted him to be on the show.
Right. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm all about the Queen. I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, it's never left me, like, or just seeing how they behaved and treated others, and like it never left me. It's just part of my fiber, so I just don't. Not a big fan of the rich.
See, I didn't know because like. They also don't hit for me, but I'm from a place where like no one is rich. Like I've said before, like literally like the kids who had money in my high school, what that meant was like their parents were still married and both had a job. Like that meant
it was a better economy.
It was like that poverty stricken or whatever.
Yeah.
But I wondered if like in your situation, if like you had friends or whatever who were rich kids, and so you're like, some of them are all right. I mean, versus no, I lived with them and I hate them even more.
I mean, I wasn't. I was never friends with the kids who were in the Mercedes, and like my group I hung out with was more middle range. So I didn't. I tried to avoid them. I did think I was friends with one for a while, but he just turned out to be a total dick. Like they just end up being dicks.
Right.
It is really interesting because I went to school with a lot of rich kids. And when I was like a real little kid, and you don't know your friends. Like in Milwaukee, I was friends with an Eline, which in Milwaukee is like total royalty. And so I'd be going to like this mansion house.
Yeah, Eline.
Eline?
Oh, you don't know that?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, Eline's big. That's a name.
That's a name.
That's a name.
So that's a last name?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. It's
Elines.
It's like now that I'm saying it, I'm like
that's not
definitely
that
some
great.
Eline Nazis.
Right.
But I would like they lived in a mansion, and so I'd be over there, and it wasn't until I was like 10 or 11 when I was like, oh, they were really rich. But then when I would like hang out with them. The kids. I remember the kids being like, well, when I grow up, I'm just going to run my dad's company.
Yeah.
And I would just
right.
be like, it would bend my mind to be like, well, what is your life? Your life is, and they do. Now they do.
Right. I knew those. Well, there was one kid that was cool that I knew, but he was in a different grade. But he was the construction kid. So every time he saw construction on the road, their family's name was on it. And then he just moved up and took over, and that's what he did. And he's just, a millionaire.
Yeah.
Right. Well, whatever. We ain't got to get into all the like socio-political parts of it, but it's like that's how it so often goes with them, and then they think that like,
oh yeah,
they think that
Born
people
on
who
third.
don't have that,
Yeah.
right, think they hit a triple that whole thing. That's what always driven me so crazy about them. But like
the guy I know, the richest person I know, who I'm friends with, is Drew Carey.
Yeah.
But Drew Carey didn't come from that, right? Drew Carey came from nothing. So, you hear stories of him like when the writers strike happened.
Yep.
Because he's still that guy.
He's such a good guy.
Yeah, he did
Most
the Bob's.
People, he did Bob's and
he bought
Jerry's
all
Deli.
these meals.
He
for
spent like
track riders and stuff.
$500,000 at Bob Big Boy alone.
Yeah, shout out Drew Carey.
Swingers and Bob's Big Boy, if you were a writer, you could go and get lunch.
He also,
and
he was doing this pre-strike. Every day is like, he just gives out stuff to regular people, prizes.
Always has.
He makes them play a little game to do it.
That is cool that he put all that together.
He just
It's like a very
he's
charitable thing of him.
He's just he's generous.
He has this wheel in his house.
He has a magic wheel.
Right.
I didn't know you knew that. Yeah, he has a magic wheel.
Devised all these intricate games.
It's crazy
and things. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
put a lot of effort into that sort of charity work.
And I've always been just kind of like, wow,
Wowed by
he's a real one.
Yeah, he is a real one that way, yeah.
Yeah, so
that is cool.
Yeah.
The monarchy, though.
I love it.
Cute, yeah, big.
Such a fan.
Yeah,
What's not to love? I mean, the idea of people just fucking within their family for centuries and then acting like they're better than everybody else.
Tell me about it.
Fantastic.
That was one of the earliest episodes of the Venn diagram. Fancy people and trash was on cousin fucking, or whatever, because that's like obviously, trailers, palaces. That's where you find most of the cousin fucking going on. But what I mean,
someone told me, I can't remember who it was, but someone told me a story about that like got to a point where they had inbred so much that they had like a Spanish king that was just like,
I told you
the
that.
Habsburg,
Yeah,
the
this
Habsburg
was-
jaw
Yeah,
guy.
yes.
The Habsburg.
Yes.
The Charles.
I mean, it's
the
just,
guy who they cut him open and they were like,
what
egad.
the fuck? Yeah, egads. Yes.
What's going on? It was
Yeah,
like
right.
instead of a heart, it was a mouse. They were like, this man lived?
yeah.
The fuck? They just cut him open and like water just
Smoke comes
it was
out.
like a geyser.
Yeah.
They're like, this man was 95% water.
It makes like whistling noises and stuff.
Yeah. The guy, and then when his wife died, he was like at her grave for like 9 days. They were like, Jesus Christ. He's like, Mother of God. They're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, he's like Charles the something. Or
I think
something
it
like
is
that.
Charles,
It was
yeah.
Hispanic, like
Yeah.
Charles II of Spain or something like that.
And he
was,
ended up like
such a-
losing, because of his inability to breed, they ended up losing like Italy or something. Like
Right.
the level of his inbredness ended up costing them a tremendous amount.
Yeah, turns out they were just super wrong about that whole thing.
Oh yeah, well yeah, they were like his nuts were
You ever seen
raisinets, and they
Yeah.
were like whoopsies.
The policy of inbreeding, yeah, because they thought, like they had the special blood, so they can't share their blood with
Oh,
anybody
yeah.
else. But turns out, if you got
Eventually
any kind of
catches
shit
up
in
with
your
you.
blood,
Yeah.
it's just going to stay there
Yeah,
forever.
yeah. He was like Dysentery the man.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Listen, guys, cold turkey may be great on sandwiches, but there's a better way to break your bad habits. We're not talking about some weird mind voodoo from your crazy neighbor, or tracking when Mercury's in retrograde, or whatever the moon's up to, or lighting your candles, or putting your crystals out, or any of that type of stuff. We're talking about our sponsor, Fume, and they look at the problem in a different way. Not everything in a bad habit is wrong, so instead of a drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit? Fume is an innovative, award-nominated device that does just that. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. Instead of vapor, Fume uses flavored air. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses all-natural, delicious flavors. You get it. Instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit you're free to enjoy and makes replacing your bad habit easy. Your Fume comes with an adjustable airflow dial and is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving your fingers a lot to do, which is helpful for de-stressing and anxiety while breaking said habits. Joe, tell them your experience with it.
Well, I concur. Fume, good. Fume allows me to live my life in a way that I describe as oxygen plus, right? We all have oxygen. Everybody's got the same oxygen, but I like my life to be heightened. And with Fume, I get oxygen plus. It's oxygen that tastes good, right? It's sweet. You put it to your lips. It's a nice little weighted thingy that makes my oxygen hit harder. It's a portable oxygen hitter harder thing. It's beautiful, feels great, and it tastes like fresh. Like I got one that's orange, and it's like orange breath. Who don't love orange breath? Stopping is something we all put off because it's hard, but switching to Fume is easy, enjoyable, and even fun. Fume has served over 100,000 customers and has thousands of success stories, and there's no reason that can't be you. Join Fume in accelerating humanity's breakup from destructive habits by picking up the Journey Pack today. Head to tryfume.com and use code POA to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. That's tryfum.com and use code POA to save an additional 10% off your order today. Tryfume.com/POA. Code POA. Fume good. Fume good.
What were you gonna say, Corey?
Yeah, Corey, what are you doing over there?
Oh, I just wanted to know if you'd ever actually seen his face. He looks
Yes.
like a poodle that'd been kicked in.
Completely.
Oh
It
my
is-
God.
He looks like a young Mr. Burns.
Oh.
He really is. It is tremendous how crazy he look. Like the fact that they were just like, oh yeah, he should be in power. Like his head really was like 60% water. There was so much water in him.
Yeah.
That they were just like, ooh, it was like a human pimple.
It's bad when you're coming out of the vagina and your beak scrapes it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. He was beaked.
But also, like, they just had to be looking at him, like, from the jump, being like, I don't know if
Well,
that's
it wasn't like he was just like, here's what we should do. You know, he was like, dirt is a meal.
Right,
You're
right,
like, Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Try moving another direction.
It's like, I don't know about the divine right of this guy.
Yeah, but they were, it's very much how like what you see in our politics now. Where like people are like, just get him across the finish line. Like, you know, where people are like, Joe Biden's going to die. Like, just get the body to the White House one last. Like, that's what they were doing with him. They're like, he doesn't need to be the best. We just need some cum to come out of him, and then we'll be okay.
but then, bad news.
No, bad news.
No cum for you.
No.
Archbishop or whoever was
reverse
doing
Oprah.
that. Oh, man. So how do you get... You're the curator of all the stories, right? The history stories.
That's actually something I wanted to ask about.
Because he does
not you. You don't get
Gareth.
I like that he's shutting you down because I feel like it's coming in a bad direction for me from you.
Yes, please, Cory.
Yeah, it was. I want to know how any of us land a job like Gareth where he doesn't have to do a goddamn thing except for sit there and be charming.
I mean,
well,
I'm kind of that on this show. I'm not saying I'm
no, you bring stuff to the table.
I don't like. I certainly don't like the follow-up from Cory.
Yeah.
It was Dave's idea. Dave had an idea for a show where he was going to bring stories to the table. He didn't think it was always going to be with me, so it probably would have lowered his frustration level if it had been a new guy, because he'd be like, hey, I asked this guy on my show. But instead, now it's our show, and yeah, every week, you know, I'll be like, can we do it like Saturday this week? And he's like, well, here's the thing about how this works. I'm putting in 20 to 30 hours on. I'm like, right, no, Sunday's good. Sunday's fine. We can do Sunday. I just want to watch the Packers. We can do Sunday. But yeah, I mean, I lucked into it.
I picked him based on his looks.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Fading.
And like you did, you picked Cory based on it's like a
head size,
orangey moon.
Yeah,
an orangey moon. Yes, exactly. His head is so perfectly round.
Let's be clear, Dave does insanely more research and work for his show than I do on this one.
I mean, how do you how do you find these things in the first place?
Honestly, originally it was really searching and looking, but now I have so many stories, and in those stories you just find other people. Like I'm always reading a story and I'm like, well, who's this guy? And then I follow that guy and I'm like, he's another one. That's how I find most of them now. But it used to be just searching everywhere and people sending me ideas, but now I have a list of like 500.
It's like, I was talking to my buddy about it, and it's like, the problem is that it is such a, like, Dave's ability to find the weird shit is a skill set in its own right.
Anything like that, like even like certain TV shows where they find these people in the middle of nowhere, or whatever, and like, or places, I'm always like, how does anybody find anything, including like, you know, interesting stories that are obscure and whatnot? Like, it's definitely a skill set.
Yeah, like even when I do rarely I'll do an episode and I'm like, it takes me so fucking long to be like, oh, that'll be a good one.
Right.
Like, it's like 2 a year, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm like, that's perfect. Whereas every week Dave's like got one somehow. So, and the live ones. Some of the live ones are just fucking
I try to save the better ones for live shows.
They're bonkers.
Right.
Like, I'll be for
those of you just listening that may not know, like, go check out the Dollop, and I do recommend their live shows that they put on their feed are fucking fantastic.
Well, and I just always am like, we're sitting backstage like eating pizza, and he's not like, in his head he's like, I'm gonna fucking tell this guy about like the story of Houdini mysticism, when like this woman used to have a fake hand coming out of her vagina to get men over there to think she could communicate with the dead.
That happened.
Sure.
And then after the show, I'll be like, bro, we were like talking about like family.
Right.
Weren't you sitting there just like, man, this guy's gonna lose his fucking head tonight?
And he's got all those in his head all the time.
Yeah. He's like the
500
Habsburg head, except his stories.
I do. There's one I'm thinking of right now that's going to be amazing that I'm going to do. Amazing.
Yeah.
He'll do that to me sometimes.
That's exciting. I'll have to look out for that.
Or he'll be like, oh man, I got one that's going to make you so sad. And I'll be like,
oh yeah. I did. We did an England one that I was just like, this might kill him.
Yes.
You ever get into any rich people shit? Rich people behaving badly or lunacy?
All the fucking time.
Right?
Oh, yeah. He brings his little politics into it all.
The rich people
they earned it, motherfucker.
Like the more you do history, the more you do history, you're just like, oh, the capitalists, the big capitalist guys are fucking psychopaths. Like on a level you can't even comprehend. They're just really, they don't care about human beings at all.
Right.
Not even slightly.
So one thing we kind of, I'm not going to say landed on because I don't know. It's just something that it seemed to present itself at some point, and tell me if you agree with this or not. I feel like the quality of rich people has steadily deteriorated over time. Meaning, like they used to. I know that like the fucking nobles had prima nocta or whatever, like all this like
which
crazy
we should
ass
bring
shit.
back.
Right, right. But like,
Yeah.
But they used to like. They used to think that they had some sort of like responsibility to like be worthy of their name
good
and that
point,
type of shit. Like they'd throw a bunch of peasants with pitchforks in front of them, but they'd like go to war on their horse and that type of shit. You know, like they felt a responsibility to do that kind of thing just because of who they were. Like they were born into this, but there's like other, you have to be worthy of it. And now I just don't feel like that's rich people do any of that at all. I don't think.
And we're kind of the same as we were in the Gilded Age after the Civil War, when everyone, there's just too many rich people. They're too rich. There's too many and they're too rich. The more rich, they've done tons of studies on this. The more rich you get, the more you have less empathy for poor people. So the richer you are, the less you care about people. There's just a shitload of studies that show that. Yeah, but so now now it's like, it used to be a few guys were rich, but now it's just like this whole class of just like all the board members and the CEOs, and they never made as much money before, but now they used to be like you'd make 7 times the highest employee or whatever. Right. And now they're like, 80, and that's like normal, and it's like, that's not gonna
well,
work.
That's why too, when they're like the corporate tax rate should be at least 27%, and you're like, it was like 90.
It's 90.
90.
Yeah, the rich people should be paying like 90%. That's how this all worked.
Right.
But they they definitely seem to have gotten worse, and like to your point, like it almost was like it's like how when I was a kid, it was like there was shame with being rich to some extent. It was like if you were raised rich, it kind of like there was some kind of shame. It was like you were less of a real person, and so you did kind of compensate in ways. And now nobody gives a fuck, and the level of rich is so ridiculous. And it was like, you correct me if I'm wrong, or anyone, but it was like FDR did not act because he was like a sweetheart. He was like, it'll all end if we don't do some kind of reset.
He was saving capitalism.
Yeah, he was like, the system that we stay rich in they're going to fucking kill us.
Yeah, they're going to kill us.
Yeah, there's this dude, his name's Nick Hanauer. He's a billionaire. He's like a tech billionaire, but his whole thing has been trying to tell his billionaire buddies, like, hey, they're going to kill us all at some point.
Yeah, he's right.
We are.
Like, eventually they will eat us. It's not just a pithy slogan or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like it will happen.
Yeah.
If we keep doing
this. And it's like
this.
The dam will break, and then it's fucking
once the dam
on.
breaks, then it's all over.
You'll be going to like little huts and just be like looking like for like Schumer cuts or like McConnell, bones.
But like you said, there was some shame to it. It's weird in some cases. I mean, obviously they're mostly totally shameless, but in some cases there's an element of shame to it today too, depending on what you do. Thinking of like in Hollywood specifically, or in show business, like nepo babies and shit, or people are like people that want to get into rapping or something. Like I saw Michael Irvin the other day, the Hall of Fame football player, talking about his son who is a rapper, right? And Michael Irvin's just going in on him on ESPN. It's like, you grew up in the richest suburb in Dallas, Texas. It's like, you're not hard. What the fuck are you talking about? Or like they try to someone try to hide, the wealth and privilege they had, depending on what they do, because they think it makes them look bad.
There is still that in, it's like the Kardashians are a good example of like, they do nothing, so it doesn't really matter. But if you're like trying to be an actor, you don't want to be associated with the fact that you didn't earn it. So it is still kind of there. And I think if you're like a rapper, like that has been, it's weird because rappers will lose you because like Kanye is a good example. Like Kanye, the first half of his career was so great because he was so fucking mad about how nobody gave a fuck about him.
Right.
And then it was like he started to get big, and then he was rapping about how hard it was to get where he was. Right. And then he was just rapping about endless money, and that's when you're like, stand-ups do that too.
I was about to say, don't you think stand-ups do the same thing all the time?
Like you'll watch Kevin. I love Kevin Hart, but you'll watch his special and it'll just be like,
I was with Michael Jordan the other day on the golf course outside the White House or whatever.
I was lost in my mansion. I don't love this stuff.
We love Tom Segura, but if you look at his fans now, you go into his fan forums, and they're all just like, the fuck is going on, man? He's talking about a $10,000 Fabergé egg.
Well, when you said a minute
Which
ago,
are the
all these
tastiest.
studies that show the richer you get, the less empathy you have for poor people. I was like, don't bring Tom Segura into it. but then I pussed out and didn't say it. But since you brought him up.
But Tom's from, his family's extraordinarily rich.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so he started there.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think there was a point where he was just doing stand-up, and so you didn't hear. But once you get into podcasting and you start talking about life and people, then your fans are like, wait, what? Well, you don't like me?
Well,
Like,
there's
you know, it's
a
that.
lot of stand-ups, too, who've done a good job of hiding the fact that they are
rich.
from money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, see, that's another example of like there is sometimes there's still an element of shame to it. Like
I guess
because of
because
that,
it's the if you're trying to relate
right.
through entertainment,
Right.
and especially stand-up, because stand-up at its core is the ability to kind of, you know, either make yourself relatable or relate to.
With stand-up, it's like relatability, but with rappers, it's like whatever street cred or authenticity or something. Like there's not like Ja Morant. I'm a Memphis Grizzlies fan. Ja Morant drives me insane because he's also like a suburban kid. He's not, but he tries to play gangster for no reason, and you know.
It's
cost us the future.
I know.
It's really crazy to watch that kind of stuff. I mean, I think with stand-up, like Tom's a good example. You could just go up and do stand-up, and no one, like, you could just do your stand-up. You can hide that you're rich if you do that, but when you're talking on a podcast, I think it gets different, right? Then now you're talking about life and stuff, and then it's. I don't think people want to when you're a stand-up. I don't think people want to see. If you become successful, they don't want you to flaunt it. They still just want you to be the stand-up that you were. I mean, that's how it seems to me.
Yeah, and I think there are people who definitely do that successfully. I mean, like
Gaffigan's a good example.
Yeah, or
exactly.
Even
But
Chappelle.
he still lives in the fucking place with all his kids in the 4-bedroom or whatever. I feel like that really works for him.
Yeah.
One of those bedrooms is a mansion, to be fair. It's a little legalese. But yeah, like I think like even Chappelle, like, you know, obviously there's shit he does where I do not agree with it, but he still has an ability to make his life, if it is like the Michael Jordan shit, it still is funny. And a lot of times it's just, you know, it's shit about being a person or like, I think there is a way to bridge that gap.
Well, Burr.
Yeah, Burr's a great example.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Great example.
it's maybe not necessarily about his life, but when it is, it's like, yeah, I'm sick of, she talks too much.
Yeah, right.
You know, and you're just like, oh yeah, the women talk too, or whatever the fuck it is. Yeah,
They totally do.
Yeah.
That's true. No matter what tax bracket you're in, they won't shut the fuck
They
up.
just talk.
They talk so much.
They don't shut the fuck up.
Another thing that's come up on here before, I want to ask you about Gareth with your British roots and everything. Like in
Did
British
people call you gay in the Midwest?
Well, yes, but
Not
not even
for that. Yeah,
No,
right.
not even for that.
Once we get into the Midwest, I start calling Gareth gay
right.
Yeah.
on tour immediately.
Yeah, that's where I'm.
Like,
yeah,
hey,
no.
we're in Missouri.
I mean,
gay.
I was like, I was a kid who skipped sports and definitely like put on my mother's dresses publicly at times. So I was always, they were.
Oh no, we were also big hometown queers.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Mine was mostly.
I was looked at as
Book
very strange. Yeah.
I liked books too much. And
Yeah,
that type of
to
thing.
be fair, if the shoe fits.
Yeah, there's a little gay, right?
Yeah.
See, that's where it's totally different for me because I grew up in just a super gay area. It was
Right,
outside of
They were
San
like,
Francisco.
get out of here, straighty. You were like, I am gay. Stop it.
Yeah.
Or two of my neighbors were gay. Like it was just like, you know, it's just like.
Are
that's
you
what it
okay,
was.
Dave? They keep calling me straight again. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm not
You'll be
straight.
gay someday.
You'll figure it out.
I'll show you.
I'll show you.
No, I feel like in British comedy, like there's this weird, they still got a whole, they're so classist or whatever, like inherently in Britain still, and you can see it in everything, meaning like, I feel like in British comedy, they have like posh, upper crust, like almost pretentious type guys that's like a thing over there. Like upper crust intellectuals who are comedians or whatever, and I like them, you know, but like over here if you're gonna be a comedian, you like gotta be an everyman or relatable. Like we don't really have the equivalent of that, I feel like.
No, I don't think we do.
Yeah, it definitely works over there more.
Right.
I mean, they do. They like. I mean, they have the royal family.
Right.
Like, if you try to poke holes in the royal family, there are some people who have left it, but my mother and her generation.
Oh, man.
If you try to poke holes in it, they don't know why they love them. They just support them. They think there's value to them, and I do think that you know, that still works over there. It has forever, and for some reason, yeah, they I mean, you know, we love our warden in this country, but they fucking lick the boots.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
they really do. I don't know. It's certainly weird. I mean, they just for some reason.
You do have some guys that come across as like upper crust, like Jimmy
Carr.
Carr, and then you have guys that are the opposite, like Stuart Lee.
Right.
Yeah, it very much comes across in like just how they carry themselves almost.
Yeah.
When you know, like Stephen Fry or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Where, you know, he's like well read and proper and all this type of thing. And he's
Well,
like,
we have. Does Bill Maher count? He's probably ours.
I guess that's true.
That hurts.
Yeah, right.
It hurts so much.
Yeah.
Man, it's just always so funny to me because like one of the
It's like a
meanest
triggering
stand-ups
term for me.
Yeah.
coming
I know,
up,
me too.
coming up, one of the meanest stand-ups I ever worked with just a fucking dick from the beginning.
Yeah.
He's true to himself.
Yeah, I guess it's true. Yeah, keeping it real.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think like with all the Russell Brand stuff that just went on
Right.
over there, like I was there with the night that the Channel 4 documentary aired.
Oh,
and I
you
watched
were.
it live. Yeah, and it was like, unfortunately, it wasn't the best made documentary, but
I guess that's the big problem with it. Is it wasn't a well-made.
Yeah,
well,
right.
in the sense,
This is the
in
production value left a lot to be desired.
in the
and
sense
so-
that it was easy to poke holes in it because it wasn't like as incriminating as you would hope it would be. If if you're like a rational person, you're like, oh yeah, he did this shit.
Yeah.
But
Right.
they left room for people to be like, I mean, why aren't they putting their face on fucking camera? And you're like,
Yeah, right.
well, listen, it's actually pretty complicated.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Well, what do you think? He like pivoted hard to
yeah.
a demographic who like wouldn't care that he sexually assaulted people
100%.
or whatever.
That's
You
the
know
most
what I mean?
incriminating thing of the
Right.
whole thing is
Yeah,
that
right.
all of a sudden,
Yeah.
when they're making this documentary, he's like, "What about the right wing?"
Yeah.
Like, he just
Right.
goes over there.
it
like,
does. And honestly, it has worked.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Yeah,
you
sure.
wish that it wouldn't have worked, but
good play.
Yeah, if that was the play, I mean, that's pretty fucking smart.
Yeah.
You can't argue with the fact that the guy is smart, and if he pulled that off, that was like a glacial move that he
Right.
did over like the last 2 or 3 years, because he was like, oh, I'm gonna get screwed.
We're gonna find out at
But the
some
amount of
point.
comedians over there, like I said, I was there when it was breaking. The amount of comedians there who were like, "Oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
like the fucking worst."
Yeah.
He's been
Everybody.
The worst.
Everyone's
Women
like, yeah,
didn't want to
right.
be like in the green room with him and shit like that. But yeah, I don't know. The UK comedy scene is so strange in its own right. The way they digest comedy, what they like from comedy, is just different. Here it is. You're right. It's like way more about like relating. They're much happier to do the sort of like the Kevin Hart version where it's like, oh yeah, I was on vacation with Posh and Bex,
Right, yeah.
and they're like into that, and you're like, what the fuck?
That's it seems.
Yeah.
It seems to me like they also another part of it is they like verbosity or like
Yeah.
like having a lot like sounding smart on purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Like as a comedian, because I feel like over here we have comics who are brilliant. People call them brilliant, and they are brilliant, but they don't. They'll be like Bill Burr will be like, listen, nobody should listen to me. I'm a dumbass.
Yeah.
I made
Right.
these in school. They always like, make it clear like I'm an idiot. What do I know? And then people are like, he's a genius, right?
Yeah.
But like over there, they're just like, I'm smarter than you, right? And
Yeah.
you're just like, but in a way that again, I kind of like
Yeah.
it. Like I watch
do
it
too.
and just sort of dig it. I just think it's like,
Well, if you watch-
interesting because we don't do that. I
If
don't
you
feel
watch
like.
old Eddie Izzard, but if
Eddie
you watch
Izzard,
one of
love
those
it.
3 special, like you were like, this guy's smarter than me.
For sure.
Like you were just
Yeah,
like, and I
absolutely.
enjoy the ride.
Love it.
But it was never about making you feel dumb.
Right, yeah.
It was just like in order to convey the things he wanted to talk about, he would relate them to you, and that kind of was like the perfect like in between of all of it. Ricky Gervais, I think,
Right.
drinks beers on stage. People still feel like, but he's a guy who hasn't been doing stand up that long. He's rich as fuck. Like the deal. But like those Eddie Izzard ones were just like, holy fuck! Like this is next level
Absolutely
comedy,
Some
and it's coming
all-time
from a guy who
favorites.
is smart as fuck, but he's
Yeah.
not necessarily shit. Like Russell Brand, when he would do stand up, which he wasn't very good at, his whole thing was trying to make you be like, wow, he's lost me a little bit. What a fucking genius.
Right.
Eddie Izzard was just like threading that needle in a new way.
That's how Stuart Lee is too.
Yeah.
He's not dumbing it down, and it's fucking brilliant, like just next level genius.
Yeah,
but you're right. I don't think you don't see comics doing that. You see people putting it on, like Natasha Leggero doing like a character of like that. But like you don't see like
Larry the Cable Guy is a great example. Like that guy was like making $100 million a year, and he would still just be like, "You ever shit your pants and it looked like your friend?"
Yeah, right.
Like,
Yep. Yeah, a lot of money in that, buddy. Loving Cory's delay.
I know it's the best.
Here it comes. Yeah, right.
I'm like, man, Cory didn't like.
Yeah,
oh,
you did.
boom!
Yes, I can almost see you have that. You looked at him like, is it coming?
Oh, do
Is
I
it
have
coming?
a sound delay as
A
well?
little bit, yeah.
oh yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Aaron.
By the way,
Oh, man, that's such a bummer.
No, it's actually
It's
great
fine.
because what Trey said is so true.
yeah. I was in San Francisco like the first times that Larry the Cable Guy went up as Larry the Cable Guy. It was just another comic.
What a
Dave.
move.
But he went up dressed as a guy in like a cable outfit. And then
He
it
had
slowly
to show up that
transitioned.
he probably had his hand on the door and was like, "I'm gonna go home." Fuck it, I put it on. I'll try it.
What, like, was he all? He had been doing that. Like, he didn't start that in San Francisco, right? Like,
No,
he'd been doing that. He just
I don't
came
know
to San
why he was
Francisco
there.
with it,
No,
'cause that'd be a
no.
wild
He
choice.
it was like showcases. Like he
Yeah,
wasn't
right.
doing like a gig.
Right.
He was around. He was around trying to do stand up, and I think that he kind of stumbled on that character. And so when he was working it out, he would do like showcases, and that's where I'd see it. Like it'd be like a Sunday night.
So good.
Yeah.
Feels weird that happened in our lifetime.
Yeah.
That feels like a 1983 bit.
Yeah, and it's like I've heard people call it like a hillbilly blackface or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
right.
and it's
Right,
like-
yeah.
And I know Cory feels the exact same way. Like, I should probably have a problem with it, but he used to fucking kill me, dude.
Oh, yeah,
When that
there was some
that
shit that was funny.
Like, when the Blue Collar Comedy Tour first came out and everything, I thought he was... I always bring my favorite Larry the Cable Guy joke was, he said, he's like, yeah, my horse, she broke her leg, so I had to take her out back and shoot her. I don't know why they tell you to do that. It didn't help at all. Like, now she's got a broke leg and a bullet wound.
Yeah, he had good jokes. I
Yeah.
mean, there were good jokes in there. People just, everyone on the West Coast just hated him, but all those blue collar guys were huge for a reason.
Yeah.
They had timing. They had jokes.
I don't know, Bill Engvall. Anyway, I was at the Larry the Cable Guy roast, and one of the funniest things I've ever seen was Greg Giraldo not being able to process how he was so famous and rich.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really
hilarious.
roasting him other than he was just confounded.
Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah.
he, at one point, like 12 minutes into it, as he's slaughtering, he just goes, "Why are you so popular?"
Right, yeah.
Whatever happened to Geraldo? You haven't seen him around.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Doing all right.
Do a little Blue Apron spot.
Yeah, no, I try to, like, I do, Cory's got a sound
What, Cory? What are you
sound
doing?
thing.
He's got a little,
What, the
a little
soundboard?
fart machine.
He's got he's got more than just farts. He's got
What else he got, buddy?
He got other
Yep.
stuff on there.
Flex the muscle.
Yeah. What, you gonna hit him with something else, Cory?
Yeah, like pretend. Oh, hey, welcome everybody. It's the Dollop.
You like that?
I don't love it.
Wow, I am on a fucking delay.
That's all right.
But now those British come with the being openly intelligent and stuff, like using big words and shit. Like, I kind of do that sometimes, but it like works because people are like, "Well, that's weird." Do you know what I mean? They're
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
he's not supposed to. Like, I was at the Improv the other night doing this like riffing set where you just and I was talking about some strip club, and I said the name of it. I was like, that shit was a misnomer, boy, and everybody just like cracked up. But it wasn't like a joke or even that funny. And I was like, y'all didn't know I knew words like misnomer, did you? But like that type of thing where it's like, he said a smart word in a dumb way.
Yeah.
Like,
He thinks he missed a nomer.
yeah, right. Like that's kind of my whole thing, honestly. I remember these people before told me they liked doing videos and shit with me because I was pretension proof,
Yeah,
which was their
right.
way of being like, it don't matter
you're
like what kind of condescending shit we give you to say, you sound so fucking dumb. No one's gonna feel like you're talking down to them for it. So it's like a cheat code. And I'm
And
like, yeah,
likable.
that's
It
the
is
thing.
like that is like one of the main like it is weird because in a way you guys have carved out like a version of blue collar,
Right.
but it's like with better politics.
much less successful.
Yeah.
Wildly
Yeah,
less
which those are
successful.
There you go.
Same thing.
Regular,
Same thing.
yeah.
Reason
No
for both
collar.
of those. Yeah, right. All right, listen, I think we've taken up enough of your guys' time. This was so much fun. Thanks for being, I know. Dying
No,
for
thank you. No, it's a pleasure. And Cory, you're not going to be on the Pastimes again, but we would love to have you on.
Please have me on.
Yeah, we don't
I'm
want
dying
Cory
to do it.
I assume this was coming. Yeah, I'm sorry for the delay. I'm really bummed out. I love you both. I'm sorry for making fun of you earlier, Gareth.
Oh, no, that was a problem, but the delay wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
The delay was fine.
The delay was fine. The
You're
earlier stuff was
actually,
hugely
you actually
problematic.
should consider this. I think it helps your comedy.
Yeah, the delay's nice.
Off timing.
My timing is so bad that I have to put myself on a 7-second delay to make it decent.
No, it's like we're doing like the CNN thing where you're just like, in the hills of Tora Bora, Cory Forrester. And you're like,
hey, guys.
thank you, Gareth. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, Cory, thanks for kind of being here. Thank you guys for.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And Airheads, Dave and Gareth, everybody of the Dollop, thanks for listening. Stick around, Airheads, though. We're about to do Clearing the Airs right now.
It's a lie.
All right.
Cue dramatic music. It's not a bird. It's not a plane. It's the most revolutionary ball trimmer the world has ever seen. Gentlemen, our friends over at Manscaped have been working night and day to bring you a below-the-waist grooming experience like none other with their brand new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. I don't know what this voice is, but we're talking about a next-generation trimmer with interchangeable blade heads for whatever shave your mind can imagine. AI is cool, but I think this might be the biggest technological advancement the world has ever seen. Upgrade your grooming game to the Ultra Sphere. That's right, we're making up words, baby. This year, by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code POA. High tech for low places. Manscaped. I love the brand new Lawnmower 5.0. Y'all know I've been all about all the things at Manscaped. I love that, like, I don't have to keep up with all these little guards. They just got a little clicky thing. Also, the ball deodorant. You know, it's getting a little colder out there, but I'm still sweating below, so that keeps me all, on a fresh keel. Tell them more about it, Trey.
Every man knows how scary it can get when going for a close shave below the belt. That's why we trust Manscaped for all of our most sensitive areas. Inside this package, you'll find the star of the show, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Their 5th-generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking a little off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. We also have dual LED spotlights to provide contrast on multiple skin tones, 3 length setting combs, and did we mention the trimmer is waterproof too? Because it is. No more wet shaving down there. Count us in. This bad boy also features dual LED spotlights to provide the contrast on those multiple skin tones so you can shed some light on your darkest places. 3 length setting cones for all your desired lengths, and it's waterproof. I know I'm repeating myself, but this stuff is noteworthy. Y'all need to be paying attention, all right? If you're taking it on the go, Manscaped has you covered. This puppy comes with a travel case and even a travel lock feature so it don't accidentally turn on and make people think you got a vibrator in your back at the airport or nothing. You're like, that's not a vibrator, it's just my ball shaver. This right here is on the cutting edge of cutting pubes, y'all. Upgrade your ball trimmer and your life will follow. So to get 20% off with free shipping, use the code POA at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping when you use the code POA at manscaped.com. We can promise you've never seen a ball trimmer look like a spaceship before. Get yours today from our folks at Manscaped.
My balls smell real good.
Hits.
Does hit.
Here's Lydia Lovelace.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Royalty and rednecks are alike. They both like cutting and picking fights. Biscuits and baked beans where they don't belong. Sit on down with Cory and Trey and learn some fancy shit today. We'll laugh a little even when they're wrong. They'll take you to a magical place where if you call someone a cunt, nobody cares. They keep it debonair at putting on airs, putting on airs, putting on airs, putting on airs.
NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. Woo!
As an adult, don't we all miss spring break? Nothing like taking a week off from all your responsibilities. Well, here's the next best thing for adults, a spring break from house payments. SaveWithConrad.com can help you get rid of all your credit card debt, just like that. We're routinely helping our listeners save $5, $6, $7, even $800 a month. And you don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket to do this, but check this out, no house payments for 2 months at SaveWithConrad.com.
All right. Well, that was fun. Fun for me anyway. I got to be in studio with the Dollop fellers. You were 2,500 miles away and on a tape delay at that, but we made it work.
That's true. I was just happy that we got to all be together. It's the mashup that everyone's been waiting for. I mean, we don't deserve to be in their company when it comes to like, you know,
Podcasting?
being like, yeah, at all.
Absolutely. No, not even in the same league. So, yeah, we appreciate them deigning to spend some time with us. Very lovely and funny gentlemen that they are. I said that we were going to do Clearing the Airs. We haven't really been clearing the air much lately because the format of the show changed. This has been the airmail portion, but I did not misspeak. This week, we are clearing the airs. I meant to say that because Cory's got some air to clear, some crow to eat, I believe.
That's true.
Cory, you want to go ahead?
I've called this press conference today. I would like to, on behalf of myself and everyone at Puttin on Airs, while it was me for the record, but, you know, I know that when I'm speaking, I represent my company, you know, everyone in the Airstream, BPP, Trey, our entire network here. I would like to offer a formal apology to the ghost of Helen Keller. I apologize for sure. Okay. I shouldn't have said, and I think I quote, I'm pretty sure she was down with all that Hitler stuff. I don't know if that's what I should have said, right?
Right.
Turns out, because and by the way, this was brought to my attention by Aunt Tiff, who is one of the moderators over on our Reddit. Apparently, I was getting roasted on Reddit because of the things that I'd said about Helen Keller. Now, I would like to say this. While I am sorry and I misspoke, and obviously we have journalistic integrity here, I would like to point out that she absolutely was into eugenics and shit, and half of what I said was right. So I don't really know why everyone's going to fucking bat for her that much. But there's a difference in what she believed, which was that let's see, babies with Down syndrome and stuff should be slaughtered after their birth. That is different than being down with all the Hitler stuff. Two wrongs don't make a right, but you know what I'm saying.
And I would just like to say, as I recall, because I didn't obviously read these complaints. You just told me the complaints were happening.
I didn't read them either. I just
said,
was told they were happening.
You said we were getting roasted for all the Helen Keller stuff, and I was like, well, now I didn't, because I didn't know any of that. And so when you said that, I was like, oh, really? Okay. So how could that possibly be my fault? And on top of that, also, I remember saying, I said, wait a minute, hold on now. Like, and this makes it doubly funny because like, I gave you an out sort of by asking because I was like, hold on, are you saying she just believed that people who were, you know, kind of in the same category as her, like people that were born with like developmental problems or like major issues like she had, that they should not exist? Because obviously I don't believe that, but I can't get mad at her for having that opinion. Like how could any of us look at her and be like, you're not allowed to feel that way? Like, right. If anyone is allowed to feel that way, she's allowed to feel that way.
Of course.
Right. But if you mean it, and you were like, no, it was all that Hitler stuff, that for her, all of it. And I was like, okay, well, now that ain't cool. Right. So that's sort of how it played out, which that's just why people got mad at you.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I said they were roasting us, and obviously it was just me. But like, that's the thing with a partnership, Trey, is that we share our successes. And so we also must share in our lambastings. When someone lambasts you, it's you're being lambasted. I guess
you are being lambasted. Yes.
Yeah. So, anyways, no. Obviously, I'm just bullshitting. I'm very sorry for saying all that shit about Helen Keller. I misheard something, and I spoke. I pulled something out of my butt, and I shouldn't have. And I apologize to anyone that I offended. Yeah. Whatever.
All right. Well, I think you did a great job. So let's do some airmail now.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Subject line: King Henry VIII fool William Somer. Hey guys, I love the show and came across an idea for a possible deep dive on Will Somer. He was the longest serving fool to the royals. Did you know that there were formal and informal fools, and not all fools wore that jester get-up we see in movies? Anyways, thought it might be a fun topic for the history with Professor Cho. All the best. I didn't know that about him, but I
make a note of it. You fucking love jesters. Write it down.
I've been wanting to do a whole episode on him, and I guess we're going to start.
Michael Jordan of jesters, evidently. So start there.
Right. That's right. All right. Subject line: Korea or Vietnam Part 2, Electric Boogaloo.
All right.
Cory, please don't read my full name. Okay. Hey guys, I've written to you guys a few times, never gotten put on, but I wanted to pipe in again. Y'all had me screaming at the radio in the car while you were talking about the Korean War. Don't worry.
This might have been me, because I believe I took the lead on this one. So
you did, because I don't know shit about the Korean.
And I don't either. And I said I was pulling it out of my ass. But anyway, go ahead.
Don't worry, I calmed down once y'all started actually looking stuff up. I studied history in school, specifically civil conflicts. And while I didn't study the Korean War at length, I did live in Korea for 2 years. What you read about Korea being a proxy war between communists and anti-communists is pretty spot on, and the war is still technically active today. Ask any K-pop fan about the South Korean military, and they'll have way more info than you expect, because all men, the pretty ones included, in South Korea have to serve in the army. I lived with one in New York. Have to serve in the army for 2 years before they turn 30, just in case war breaks out again. In North Korea, they have the same conscription idea, but the term is far longer. Yeah, no shit. If you want a semi-decent picture of what life in North Korea is like now, there is a Korean drama on Netflix called Crash Landing on You that is partly set in the North, and most of the supporting characters are North Koreans. The production used actual North Korean refugees as consultants, and it's Netflix, so there's dubs if that's more your thing. This is funny. Anyway, every time I write to you guys, Cory complains that it's too long, so I'll stop there. Love yins like chicken. All right. It didn't seem like you did that bad of a
I was
job.
about to say, I remember the way I remember it in my head is I remember being like, I'm pulling this out of my ass, but I feel like it was another one of them communism things. Like they kind of like, we backed the not communist and they were the other communist, whatever. And like that. And then I looked it up and it was like, I remember looking it up and being like, I got that pretty well correct. Yeah. And when I looked it up, I read what they just said, proxy war thing. And they said that part was right, but my part was wrong. So I'm a little confused because I remember being validated by that part. So anyway,
I was about to say, like, here's the deal, though. The crux of everything you said was based in North Korea don't hit. So, like, even if you said some wrong things, it's like, we're all on your team.
I think I even said that I thought that the war was still technically ongoing even today and all that shit. Yeah, right.
You did, because when
I really don't think I was that far off.
No, when I read that,
listener, but
it's funny because when I read that in the email, I was like, I've heard that before. Oh, Trey said it. Trey's the one that said it.
Yeah.
So, matter of fact, like fucking, I don't know, maybe she didn't live in fucking Korea long enough. You know what I mean? Because it sounds like you know what you're talking about. All right. One more, because this is a lengthy one as well, but I had to read it because the subject line is cousin fucking. All right.
We just talked about cousin fucking with the Dollop guys a little bit.
We sure did. Hey guys, this is kind of outdated because I'm currently catching up on all the older episodes that I missed when I had a shorter commute to work. This is in the same vein as the cousin fucking, but just goes to show how the Venn diagram between white trash and high class, in this case Hamlet, are related. I'm from small town Alabama, and a girl I graduated high school with has some true Hamlet shit going on. So we graduated high school. She married some old dude, cheats on him a bunch with a feller we'll call Judd. Well, she ends up pregnant, as you do, and eventually has a child. She is still married to original old buddy and continues to cheat on him with Judd. A few years go by, the affair is discovered, and the husband finds out the kid is Judd's and not his own, and hops on out. And nopes on out. Like, nope, I'm out. All right. Luckily for him, that's the end of his piece in this story. So, old girl and Judd end up getting married. They christen the honeymoon by going to Panama City Beach, as you do. While there, he whips the hell out of her, ends up hiding in a high-rise that's under construction while the police look for him throughout the night. The next day, he apologizes, and they decide to go ahead and head back home. They end up having another kid, and I reckon the whippings continue. Years go by, and they end up getting a divorce, and she hooks up with Judd's brother, Jeff. Well, she ends up pregnant, and Jeff, not wanting to sully her reputation, decides they should get married. So Jeff and Judd go on a trip, and Jeff tells Judd of his plan to marry his ex-sister-in-law. So Judd does what any reasonable redneck does and steps out of a moving car going 80 miles an hour and immediately dies.
That's not what I thought. Judd was going to kill Jeff is what I thought. I thought Judd was going to immediately stab Jeff to death or something. I didn't expect him to just kill himself.
I didn't see that coming.
No, I didn't either.
The wedding continues, and they have the baby. Now, the two older brothers have a dad that's actually their uncle and a baby brother that's actually their cousin. There's your redneck Hamlet story.
Roll Tide.
All of this is absolutely true, with the names slightly changed and redacted. Also, if you couldn't tell, all these motherfuckers was on pills and meth. Hopefully, y'all can trim the fat on this enough to make it onto the podcast, because I know it's long as fuck. Love everything y'all do, and thanks for making my drives to and from work worth a damn. This is Andrew, by the way. Andrew, I ain't cutting none of that fat out. You murdered from top to bottom.
That was riveting the whole time. A tale as old as time, let me tell you.
It was. Hey, remember, you can email us at puttingonairs@gmail.com. Thank y'all for listening to the show. If you're only listening to it and hadn't checked it out on the YouTube, I suggest you do. It's watchpoa.com. Also, Trey, where the fuck are you going to be this weekend and weekends coming up, stand-up wise?
Sunday, I'll be in Phoenix. Then next Sunday after that, I'll be in Chicago. And then I got San Francisco coming up, Northwest Arkansas, and then closing out 2023, as we always do at Zany's in Nashville. I got 2024 dates coming very soon. Go to TreyCrowder.com, check them all out. Also, check out our book, Around Here and Over Yonder, Comedic Travel Guide. It hits for people. It'll hit for you, too. Or you can get the audio book on Audible, which we do read and which does hit. Either way, I appreciate you.
It does hit. Yeah, we'll be at Zany's in Nashville December 14th through the 16th. Then on December 28th in Asheville, North Carolina, I will be there headlining, bringing along with me friends of the shows, Good Cop, Rad Cop. I'll be at the Gray Eagle. Grab our book, and also go subscribe at bonuscory.com. That is my Substack. For those of you who are already paid subscribers, you know that we just finished up the riveting series, Colonel Cornbread and the Case of the Confederate Ruby. But for those that are just free members, that actually drops today as you're listening to this on Friday. bonuscory.com. Love y'all. And again, as always, stay fancy.
Here's Lydia Lovelace.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Royalty and rednecks are alike. They both like cutting and picking fights. Biscuits and baked beans where they don't belong. Sit on down with Cory and Trey and learn some fancy shit today. We'll laugh a little even when they're wrong. They'll take you to a magical place where if you call someone a cunt, nobody cares. They keep it debonair at putting on airs, putting on airs, putting on airs, putting on airs.
NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. Woo!
As an adult, don't we all miss spring break? Nothing like taking a week off from all your responsibilities. Well, here's the next best thing for adults, a spring break from house payments. SaveWithConrad.com can help you get rid of all your credit card debt, just like that. We're routinely helping our listeners save $500, $600, $700, even $800 a month. And you don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket to do this, but check this out, no house payments for 2 months at SaveWithConrad.com.